The film begins with a group of Nazi Navy soldiers cruising towards a boat in the vast Atlantic Ocean. On board are Captain Gus March Phillips and Lassen, undercover agents for the British military. The Nazi commander interrogates them. Lassen poses as a resident of Sweden, and the commander and his men board their boat to inspect their passports and vessel. Gus explains they're just on a leisurely holiday enjoying the freedom of sailing the open ocean. After a tense document check, Lassen offers the commander some food which only seems to rile him up more. He orders them to surrender with hands raised amidst the tension. Lassen can't help but laugh jokingly, betting on shooting Gus, who joins in the laughter. Infuriated, the commander orders his men to douse their boat in gasoline, recounting a brutal story of a previous encounter with another vessel. He presents them with a grim choice: burn alive or swim for their lives. As the soldiers start pouring gasoline, the commander describes the horrifying fate of those who dared to defy him. But just as the tension peaks, a hidden cabin is discovered, and British soldier Hayes eliminates the threat from within. Lassen asks Freddy if he's doing a good job, and Frederick turns to Gus for answers. Fred's inquiry prompts a flashback to 25 days prior, where the scene shifts to the Prime Minister of Britain presenting dire news to Major M. and Ian Fleming. They witnessed the grim reality of Hitler's conquests, with Poland, France, and Belgium already fallen, leaving Britain as the last bastion of hope for Europe. Amidst the turmoil, it's revealed that America has pledged support, but Hitler's ruthless U-boats pose a significant threat, blockading vital supply routes. The Prime Minister emphasizes the urgency of disrupting the U-boats' logistics to thwart further devastation. Despite the risks, he insists on keeping the mission off the books, warning of dire consequences if they're caught by either British soldiers or Nazi forces. At the clandestine headquarters of the Secret Operation Executive, and briefs Fleming and intelligence agents Miss Stewart and Heron, he reveals their ace in the hole, Captain Gus March Phillips, a skilled operative currently behind bars on the King's orders. Stewart and Heron cling to hope as Gus is ushered in, surprised by the mission laid out before him. Gus eagerly gathers and keeps everything he likes inside the room assigned to Operation Postmaster. Gus learns of his mission: neutralize the German U-boats by targeting the Duquesa, a crucial link in their supply chain currently harbored at the West African island of Fernando Po, with a tight deadline of 44 days. Gus insists on handpicking his team. He first calls for Hayes, fueled by a personal vendetta against the Nazis for the death of his brother. Then he selects Fred, lauding his expertise as a frogman. Following Fred's inclusion, Gus calls for Lassen, highlighting his rugged upbringing battling bears and tracking down elks. He praises Lassen's expertise with the bow and arrows, boasting over 100 inventive ways to take down an opponent. Gus then emphasizes the importance of Appleyard, a master strategist and chess grandmother, recounting their shared experiences at Dunkirk and acknowledging that without him, he wouldn't be standing before them. Ian chimes in, revealing that Appleyard has been captured while working on Operation Postmaster and is currently held captive in La Palma. Undeterred, Gus insists on rescuing him en route, confidently shouldering the responsibility. Further briefing reveals Stewart's extensive military training spanning over 2 years, coupled with her talents as a singer and actor. Meanwhile, Heron's background includes managing multiple businesses on Fernando Po, making them invaluable additions to the team. With the mission entrusted to him by M, Gus strides out of the office, donning M's coat as a symbol of authority. Back in the present, Gus elucidates the intricacies of their mission to his comrades, outlining his plan to prioritize the rescue of Appleyard. Transitioning to the Nazi train operation, Stewart and Heron are depicted navigating their roles amidst the chaos of the dining car. With Heron's guidance, Stewart seizes a crucial opportunity to snatch a briefcase, deftly deceiving the unsuspecting soldiers. Despite a soldier's attempt to coerce her into singing, the commander's intervention prevents further suspicion. However, Heron intervenes just in time to defuse the situation, allowing them to slip into a secluded cabin to relay vital information to Fleming. As the message is transmitted, M promptly directs its forwarding to the Prime Minister, ensuring timely awareness of the Nazis' plans. Stewart and Heron execute a seamless return of the briefcase to its original position, maintaining their cover. In the Prime Minister's war room, Admiral Pond presides over a gathering of army chiefs who disclose Hitler's offer of surrender. Despite their urging, the Prime Minister sternly dismisses their proposition, asserting his resolve to continue the fight. In a private meeting with Fleming, the Prime Minister absorbs the gravity of the situation, acknowledging the political risks they face. Undeterred by the potential consequences, he reaffirms his commitment to the mission. On the boat, Gus gathers his team and lays out the plan to rescue Appleyard, urging them to proceed under the cover of night. However, as they stealthily approach the Nazi camp on La Palma, they realize that waiting for darkness might mean Appleyard's demise. With little time to spare, they opt to strike immediately, but their efforts are almost foiled when two guards spot them, only for Lassen to swiftly neutralize the threat. Meanwhile, on Fernando Po, Stewart and Heron arrive at the bustling port, only to discover an unexpected increase in the number of men, tugs, and Duquesne crew. Undeterred, Heron directs Stewart's attention to a man named Lure, revealing him as the linchpin of their operation. Describing Lure as even more treacherous than the Nazis, Heron assigns Stewart the task of keeping him occupied. Entering Lure's domain, Heron negotiates a deal for warehouse crates, but Stewart intervenes, offering a significantly lower price. With her keen business acumen, she persuades Lure that a higher percentage would be unfavorable for both parties. When queried about her identity, Heron introduces Stewart as his esteemed contact from New York. Through a combination of charm, wit, and linguistic prowess, Stewart convinces Lure to entertain their proposal, enticing him with promises of excitement and profit. Impressed by her fluency in German and her ability to solve his riddle, Lure agrees to collaborate with the deal sealed. Heron's revelation of Lure's cruelty sends a shiver down Stewart's spine, but with Heron's support, she gathers her courage, readying herself for the challenges ahead. Meanwhile, Appleyard provides Gus and his comrades with insider knowledge, mapping out the quickest route to evade both British warships and German U-boats. Elsewhere, at Lure's casino, Heron leaves Stewart to navigate a tense encounter between Captain Bina and a waiter named Fei. While Heron distracts Bina, Stewart observes keenly as Lure joins her table, cleverly answering her riddle. Their conversation takes a serious turn when Lure quizzes her about her stance on dealings with Jews. Stewart tactfully plays along, winning Lure's favor and paving the way for a burgeoning friendship. As their bond strengthens, Heron proposes a party to celebrate their newfound alliance. Meanwhile, Stewart and Heron waste no time in relaying crucial information about Duquesne's earlier departure to Gus and the Secret Operations Executive HQ. However, unbeknownst to them, a mole within the SO intercepts the message, passing it on to Fleming, who in turn brings it to M's attention. As M departs to act on the intelligence, the mole tips off Admiral Pond about the covert mission, setting off alarm bells. Back at base, Gus and his team strategize their next move to reach Fernando Po ahead of schedule with just 12 days remaining until their arrival in Fernando Po. London is rocked by a devastating German bombardment, shaking the city to its core and plunging them into further uncertainty. The Prime Minister, sensing the turmoil, addresses his valiant soldiers, embarking on a mission never undertaken before, pressing on as they near their destination with just 2 days remaining. They are suddenly intercepted by a British warship. Sensing the futility of evasion, Gus halts their progress, bracing for confrontation. Confronted by the Major, Gus and his crew stand firm, refusing to abandon their unauthorized mission. The Major warns of potential international repercussions and reveals orders from Admiral Pond to halt their advance. As tensions rise, a looming threat emerges in the form of an approaching U-boat, diverting the warship's attention. Seizing the opportunity, the Major allows Gus and his crew to slip away, urging them to reconsider their course of action. With quick thinking, Gus steers their boat out of harm's way, evading the looming danger. The next day, Heron introduces Stewart to Camp Billy, the Prince of Fernando Po, whose English education at Eton sparks an initial presumption of entitlement. However, Stewart's charm and persuasion soon win him over, convincing him to join forces against the common enemy. Demonstrating her prowess with various firearms, Stewart proves her worth to Billy and Heron, earning their trust. As Gus establishes a rendezvous point with Billy and Heron, the camaraderie between them solidifies, especially as Gus recognizes Billy as the former captain of Eton.
Captain Eton, 21 to 22.
The film continues with Gus laying out his plan to sink the Nazi U-boat in the North Atlantic by targeting Duquesne and its escort tugs. Despite the odds stacked against them, Billy is intrigued and learns of the daunting numerical disadvantage faced by Gus and his men. Billy swiftly commands aid to gather his men, revealing their own cache of firearms. However, he expresses skepticism about the Duquesa being fully visible due to its abundant lighting. Gus reassures him, promising that Heron will handle the lights later. As Heron readies the explosives to darken the night, Stuart frets for his safety. Heron, undeterred, urges her to focus on her task of bringing Lure to the party he's arranged. Attempting to compensate Billy for his assistance, Gus offers payment only to be rebuffed as Billy asserts the value of a title bestowed by His Majesty's government over mere monetary compensation. Accepting the offer in exchange for a knightly title, Billy returns the money. Meanwhile, Heron plants the bomb in the lights control room, encountering 3 Nazis who threaten him. Employing his secret weapon, Heron swiftly neutralizes the threat. Here, as evening falls, Gus and his comrades await the darkness, observing 2 separate parties, one for officers and another for soldiers. Meanwhile, Stuart, escorted by Lure, joins the festivities, while Heron distracts Captain Armando with the help of a prostitute. Stuart seeks out Heron, who informs her of the high-ranking officers present and instructs her to engage Lure. Despite Lure's initial discontent, Stuart assures him of a special performance. However, their conversation is interrupted by the Duquesa's owner, revealing Lure's alterations to make the ship unsinkable. Stuart rushes to inform Heron, urging him to halt the mission. Heron, in turn, implores Stuart to keep Lure occupied while he intervenes with Gus. As the lights dim, Gus prepares to initiate the mission, only to be halted by Appleyard, who alerts them to Heron's attempt to warn them. Sending a message acknowledging the Duquesa's changes, Gus orders his team to stand by for further instructions. Meanwhile, M receives the message, but their secrecy is compromised when Admiral Pond confronts them, threatening a tribunal. M defiantly orders Gus to proceed with the mission, supported by the Prime Minister's unwavering determination. Buoyed by Gus's reputation for defiance, Gus feels the weight of the situation bearing down on him as his friends bicker, questioning the sudden reinforcement of the boat. Losing his patience, Gus watches as Appleyard steps in with a daring proposal, stealing the Duquesa. Appleyard lays out a plan involving rigging the anchor cables and fuel supplies to cut off the Nazis' pursuit and halt the flow of supplies to the U-boats. With determination, Gus rallies his team, preparing for the audacious task ahead. Meeting with Billy, Gus divulges the altered plans and requests the use of his tugboats. He assigns roles to his team, Frederick setting explosives, and Lassen dealing with the Duquesa crew alongside Appleyard. Though hesitant, Billy agrees, rallying his men to prepare for action. Meanwhile, Stuart distracts the officers and Lure with her singing, while Gus and his team execute their mission with precision. As Gus and Hayes dispatch Nazis in the harbor, Frederick readies the explosive boats. Elsewhere, Appleyard and Billy's men make their move onto the Duquesa, while Lawson stealthily rigs the anchor and launches his attack from within. Stuart's interactions with Lure raise suspicions, but she maintains her guise, keeping him intrigued. Simultaneously, Fred and Billy's men secure the fuel depot, only to be startled by Gus and Hayes' unexpected arrival. Chaos erupts as Appleyard and his team confront the Nazis head-on. With the Duquesa cleared, Appleyard and Lassen survey the explosives, estimating their effectiveness in halting the U-boats for a substantial 6 months. Gus and Lassen exchange nods, indicating their readiness as they await the detonation of the Duquesa's anchors. Finally, with anticipation mounting, the anchors explode, sending shock waves through the ranks of Nazi soldiers and officers. Gus cautions Billy that the true chaos will ensue when the fuel depot detonates. Meanwhile, Lure leads Stuart to his abode, where he confronts her about her true identity. Before he can act on his suspicions, the fuel depot erupts, diverting the attention of the Nazis and Lure. Amidst the chaos, Gus and his men bide their time, strategically unleashing explosive retaliation, decimating the Nazis and their weaponry. In the midst of the firefight, Hayes sustains a gunshot wound to the shoulder, but Fred swiftly comes to his aid, whisking them out of harm's way across the harbor. Heron dispatches 2 guards and observes Lure's arrival, witnessing his ruthless response to the taunts of Armando and the Duquesa's captain. In a fit of rage, Lure eliminates them both, ordering his men to prepare the Esbats for departure before Hitler arrives for their apologies. However, as they board the Esbats, they are met with a fiery demise courtesy of explosive traps set by Gus and his comrades, who revel in the spectacle. Amidst the turmoil, Heron spots Stewart being led away, prompting him to spring into action, facing off against Lure. Stewart outwits him, dispatching him with a well-aimed shot from her concealed weapon. Heron swiftly arrives to rescue her, just as Gus, urged by Billy, prepares to depart, spotting an approaching patrol boat. Their fears are allayed as they realize it's Heron and Stewart returning safely with the mission accomplished. They rejoice, and Appleyard wastes no time in notifying the British Navy of their success, signaling the completion of their daring operation. Aboard the Duquesa, the following morning, as they dock at the warship, the Major delivers sobering news of an impending tribunal for defying Admiral Pound's direct orders. While Billy is dismissed to return to his island, before departing, Gus expresses heartfelt gratitude to Billy for his invaluable assistance. Days later, the Prime Minister learns of 3 Italian ships lurking in international waters. Weeks pass, and Gus and his comrades find themselves summoned to a meeting within the confines of a military prison. Standing in formation, they're taken aboard to find the Prime Minister awaiting them. He expresses anger at their insubordination yet praises their efforts as pivotal in garnering American support against Hitler's forces. With a gesture of reconciliation, he arranges a lunch for them before departing, declaring that Gus and his team are now under his employ.